youngest of three children, and after her brother died in the war, she became close to her father. She felt his pain, and she was always trying to console him. Helen's father and mother lived in a quaint little one-room house. They made sausages, and her mom canned and baked bread. They had a couple chickens and some pigs, and they would sell their wares at the market. Cabinet or closet was always filled, no matter what. They didn't have to go hungry. They had all this food canned, and this is what it looked like. She would go with him to the market every month and do the best that she can, to sell all their wares. I look a lot like my grandmother, and she loved daisies and I loved daisies, and she had white hair and I have white hair, so I guess what goes around comes around. Helen's mom and dad never traveled. They hardly ever left their city, except for her father going to the market. But they always had something to talk about. They laughed after dinner. They always touched each other. And even though they were not huggy and loving towards their children, they were with each other. If you notice this picture, she's got her hands on his leg. Summer, they would store wood for the winter. He would bring home branches whenever he picked up, any wood from anywhere on his way home from work. He would carry it on his back in a satchel, and they would stockpile it, so in the winter they would have wood. My grandfather knew that the only joy my grandmother had was in flowers and baking and cooking, and so he planted wildflowers all over the yard, especially yellow flowers that she liked and daisies that she liked. And even when we went back several years later, the whole backyard was full of flowers. At 16, her town had nothing for her. She hated school. The town had a population of 50 people, no electric and no water. They had to burn candles to read their books. And she wasn't having any of it. She hated it. She hated going to school. She would rather go out to the farm and, tilled soil and pick potatoes and hot peppers, because of the area that they lived in. My grandfather worked for the government, and he was the supervisor of the land that they grew vegetables for the people in the city, the elite. And so she begged if she could go with him every morning. Please, Dad, please let me just go with you. I don't want to go to school. And her father was okay with that. He didn't go to school. He went, I think 3rd grade was the most he went to. And so he liked the company, and he allowed her to go. So after the last time, when she was between 16 and 17, that they went to the market, they had a discussion with one of the generals who was having, who has a wife who was having problems with her pregnancy. And so the general asked my father, because they were friends, if Helen would mind coming to Budapest and staying with them, being their maid, sort of, until the mistress had the baby. And of course, they would be compensated very well. And so they agreed. They packed Helen's bag, and she said goodbye to her mother. She hugged her, but there were no tears. And her father and her drove by horse and buggy to Budapest, which took about 18 hours. So they had to make a stop at night and sleep on the buggy and continue. So when they got to Budapest, that was the first time that Helen had ever seen a car, or, people dressed differently than farm clothes, trolleys, and she was in awe of all of it. When they pulled up in front of the general's house and they stopped, her father grabbed her hand and said, "I am not doing this for the money. I'm doing this because I think you're going to benefit from being around aristocrats." So when they pulled up in front of this mansion, Helen just took a deep breath, and she knew that that's where she belonged. When they walked in, they had a room already ready for her back behind the kitchen. It had a bed, a single bed, a bathroom, a mirror, and 2 gray uniforms that she would have to wear every day and take care of the mistress. And her job was to run up and down these big, huge steps every day, serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner, helping the mistress with bathing and changing clothes and whatever she needed. And occasionally they would send her out into the city to run errands. But while she was there, and her other job was to put up all the things that the milkman brought. And at first it was an old milkman, and she wasn't, happy about seeing him. But one day, this gorgeous, blue-eyed, big smile guy, cocky Hungarian, showed up at the back door, and Helen just fell in love. She didn't really know what love is, but the feeling that she felt was everything that she could ever imagined it to be. And so she was kind of shy, and he was kind of cocky, and he said to her, "What is your name?" And she said, "I am Helen," which is Ilona in Hungarian, but we'll go with Helen for the story's sake. And she, shy and blushed, and she looked up at his blue eyes, and she said, "And what is your name?" And he said, "My name is Pista," which is Hungarian for Steve. And as it would have it, they saw each other for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years. She finally made friends in Budapest, a couple of girls, a couple of guys, and she kind of really liked this one guy, I think Ronald or Randy or somebody like that. She really kind of liked him. Randy and Pista were friends. And so Pista knew it every time that Randy took Helen out on a date. He was getting jealous. Randy knew that Pista was crazy about Helen, and he joined the military. And he kept writing letters to Helen, telling her how much he loved her. But he has met somebody else in Germany, and they were getting married. Come back for part 3.